Hello again. I'm in the exact same spot I was in my last video. It's the end of the night, the kids are in bed, and my wife is ironing my uniform for work tomorrow. I'm gonna try to get through this quick because I get up very early on my work days and I don't want to be tired tomorrow. What I want to go over today is some chapters in Judges. It's the story of Samson. There's chapters 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way till 17 that has to deal with Samson. I'm going to do one chapter at a time because I think if I did it all at once, it'd be way too long of a video, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to start in Judges chapter 13, the birth of Samson. Starts out with a little message, which is the kind of the signature of Judges. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, which they were doing the whole time. This is when Israel was in kind of a apostate state, and the Lord kept giving them judges to kind of oversee them and kind of bring them back to him. But again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. So God's like, look, you're not listening to me. You're doing evil again. I'm going to have to give you over to the Philistines. I can't protect you no more. And hopefully this gives you guys enough sense to come back to me so I can protect you. A certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites had a wife who was childless and unable to give birth. The angel of the Lord appeared and said, "You are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son." So we have the angel of the Lord appearing, which in my personal belief, and I can get in that to a different video, the angel of the Lord is a pre-incarnate form of Jesus Christ. And he comes and gives a promise to the wife of Manoah and says, "You are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see that to it that you do not drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will be pregnant and have a son, whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines." So this promise takes obedience, first of all. A Nazirite was someone who was dedicated to God. They had a lot of rules that followed behind them. There's like, don't touch carcasses, no drinking, no putting a razor to their head. So there was a little bit of rules to this. Their life was basically dedicated to God, and they followed certain order of things so that they could stay in line with that. The woman went to her husband and told him, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, 'You will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazirite of God from the womb until the day of his death.'" So she comes to her husband's like, "This amazing thing just happened. You wouldn't believe it. This guy basically looked like God. He looked like an angel. He's very awesome, amazing. Told me he was going to have a baby, and it's just crazy." So she's out there witnessing to her husband, like, this is what just happened. This is what God just did for us right now. And this is very cool. The next line says, "Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, 'Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born.'" So we got to understand that Israel is in a state of apostasy. They're in a state of oppression, and Manoah prays the Lord, which is probably hard for all the other Israelites to do. So it kind of shows you that Manoah and his wife, even though they might not have been 100% in line with what God needed them to do, that they at least still had faith in God and still believed in God. And that's a very cool response anyway. It's like, how often do we come to God and are like, okay, we're about to be blessed with this baby. Cool, we just got to be parents now. And Manoah's like, yeah, well, I don't know how to be a dad, so God, I need you to show me. So he's relying on God 100%. And then it says, Manoah, go back. Then God heard Manoah. And the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field, but her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, "He's here, the man who appeared to me the other day." So what's cool about that is it starts off with God heard Manoah. So when he prayed to the Lord, when he relied on him, when he asked him to come, even in the state Israel was in, God heard him. And God hears us too. When we ask humbly, like, look at Manoah, was very humble. It's like, I don't know how to raise this kid, God. I need you. Send whoever you sent back to me, because I need your advice. I need your guidance, because I don't know how to raise a kid. And when we humble ourselves like that, God hears us. And he heard Manoah. And then he came back just like Manoah had asked. And she hurried out and told him he's here again. So Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, "Are you the man who talked to my wife?" "I am," he said. I like that he said, "I am," as the angel of the Lord, because that kind of like is a flashback to when God was asked who he is, and he says, "I am." So, hold on a second. Emma, come here. Come here, mama. Someone doesn't want to go to bed. Come here. All right. So he says, "I am." See, that's you, Emma. So it's kind of a flashback to kind of why I believe that he is the angel. The angel of the Lord is God, a pre-incarnate form of Jesus Christ. But that's just my opinion. So Manoah asked him, "When your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work?" It's like, and that's even cooler of Manoah to say. He says, "When your words are fulfilled." He didn't say, "Hey, if I'm going to have a son, is this really going to happen?" He said, "When your words are fulfilled." That's a very a faithful statement. That's a statement straight from faith. The angel of the Lord answered, "Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her." Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "We would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you." The angel of the Lord replied, "Even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord." Manoah did not recognize that it was an angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel, the Lord, "What is your name? So that we may honor you when your word comes true." Again, a very faithful statement. When your word comes true, we will honor you. He replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." Then Manoah took the young goat, together with the grain offering, and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. So I think that's interesting. He says, "Hey, what's your name?" He's like, "Why do you ask? You wouldn't understand it if I told you." And I think he kind of already gave his name. He said, "I am," earlier. And they didn't see it for what it was. They didn't recognize it right there from the get-go. So he's right. It's beyond your understanding who I am. So anyway, and the Lord did an amazing thing. While Manoah and his wife watched, as the flame blazed up from the altar towards heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended into the flame. Like, whoa, how crazy would that be? They light the sacrifice, and the flames come up, and this person is just standing there. They don't even recognize as anything but a man from God, zips into the flame and disappears into the sky. It's like, that would be a trippy thing to see for anybody. And amazing. So not only is God giving them a promise, they already believe in the promise, and now he's showing them like amazing works, like just crazy amazing works. So, seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized it was the angel of the Lord. "We are doomed to die," he said to his wife. "We have seen God." Which again, they recognize the angel of the Lord as God at that moment, which is another reason I believe it's a pre-incarnate form of Jesus Christ. But his wife's answer is my favorite part because it just reminds me of my marriage too. But his wife answered, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things, or now told us this." So his wife's like, look, the husband's fallen to the ground like, we're done for. We've seen the face of God. We're doomed. And the wife's like, dude, seriously? He just promised we're having a baby and told us how to raise this kid. You really think he's going to kill us now? And that's kind of, I think, all marriage with all men. Sometimes we need our wife to kind of just, oh, sorry, because we just say silly, silly things sometimes. And our logic, sometimes men are very logical beings, but we don't always promise that logic is not fallible. We say some pretty silly things, but okay, And the woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew up, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir in him while he was in Mahanana. Probably pronounced that wrong. Yes, I see you, Emma. Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. And that's the end of this chapter. So this is a lot shorter of a video. Going to be easier to get through. I think that we can learn a lot from just like the faith they had. One, it's like a lot of people think that the Old Testament is full of a very wrathful God that's just doing crazy things like, oh, he gave them into the hands of the Philistine. No, he just stopped protecting them because they didn't want him. God is very loving, and as a parent with our kids, when they don't want us to do something, sometimes they got to figure it out themselves. You'll be sitting there trying to build a Lego masterpiece for your kids. You go buy them these Legos, and they're like, no, I want to do it myself. You're like, okay, and figure it out. And then they got to come to you when they can't figure it out after the endless hours they put into it. They have to be like, okay, Dad, I need your help. And then you're like, okay, well, now I'm here to help you, son. So when God hands them over to the Philistines for 40 years, it's not like he's purposely just inflicting them like, oh, well, you guys need to suffer because you didn't worship and respect me. It's more of a like, look, I'm telling you guys, this is how you got to live your life in order to avoid these problems, avoid these messes. I'm protecting you because you guys are learning. I'm protecting you from the Philistines. No problem. They're not going to be able to get to you because you guys are trying with your best to come to me, listen to what I'm telling you, and do what I'm trying to help you with. When they're like, you know what, God, no, we want the protection, but we don't want to have to listen to you. We don't have to come to you. In fact, we're not even sure if you're the one protecting us because there's these other gods over here that the Philistines worship, and we kind of like that ritual too. Temple prostitutes. That's what's wrong with that. So they kind of just jumped into this heresy and this apostate state where they were just falling away from God and like looking at the world and envying the world and wanting that of the world. So God says, okay, have the world. The world can have you then. And he gave them over to the Philistines. Like, you want the world? Here, the world can have you. When you guys are ready for me, come back to me. Are you teaching too, Missy? All right. So, people tend to think that like God is cruel because of this. It's not him being cruel. It's just him giving people what they want, like a loving parent. Is this what you want? You can have it. But I'm telling you, it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be pretty. But like children, like us, when we were with our parents, hard-headed, knuckle-headed children, we didn't listen to our parents. We had to learn ourselves in a lot of ways. And later on, as we grow up and get older, we're like, man, if I would have only listened to my parents, then this would have never happened. And this is kind of what the same thing that's happening here. So even though they're suffering, I'm assuming that there's some point in time where they're like crying out to God, like, man, this is crazy. I wish we could just go back, and we should have just kept our faith in the Lord. And, he always fulfilled his promises. So he chose a certain man, Manoah, and he chose him for a reason. Because when he came and showed himself to Manoah's wife and revealed they were going to have a baby, these people acted with like utmost faith. And Manoah instantly prayed, like, God, please help me raise this child. I believe you, Lord. I believe you. I know you're there. I know you watch over Israel. I know you're the only reason that I'm surviving in this land under the oppression of the Philistines. And God reveals himself to them. Not only does he reveal himself, but he shows a miracle to solidify his word. Even though Manoah already believed him. He already believed him. And God still showed a miracle that, hey, like, look, I know you believe me, but I just want to give you a little extra insurance. And poof, up in the flame. Now, Manoah's reaction was a little bit silly. But that's just us as humans. We just say and do silly things. We're going to die. We're going to die. And his wife's like, yeah, okay. Lord, I didn't marry him for his smarts. Okay? So that's just kind of what it is. So that's kind of just the message there. It's God revealing himself. He does the same thing in our lives. There's times where we distance ourselves from the word of God, from our disciplines, from prayer, and we start taking on things in our own strength. And God's like, look, I'm telling you, I can help you with this situation. You got to come back to me. You got to get back in those disciplines. We're like, no, God, you know what? We're experienced. We've been in this world. I think I have a plan to handle this, God. I just want you to bless it so I can do my plan. And God's like, look, son, I can't bless it because I know where it's going to lead. But if you want to do it so bad, you go for it. And in the end, God's going to bring us back. He's going to have a plan for us. And the minute we turn around and start showing that beautiful faith that we had in the first place, God's going to be right back in our life showing us miracles like jumping into the flame. I cannot say how many times God has just came into my life and showed me a miracle and blessed me more than I deserve. It's that grace and mercy. With grace, he gives me what I don't deserve. With mercy, he doesn't give me what I do deserve. And there's times where I've done things where it's like, man, I deserve the worst, Lord, but I'm so grateful and so in awe that I have an amazing God that loves me enough that's going to guide me through this gently. But anyway, that's my message for tonight. It's a little bit shorter of a video. It went a little longer than I was anticipating. I hope everyone's having a great night, that they have a blessed night, and that everything goes well. God bless, and have a great night.